So I'm again joined kindly by Terry, and in the police there's a lot of colourful characters that come into the job. Terry's going to tell us about one of those colourful characters.
Thank you, Simon. Yes, well, this story occurred in the late 60s, and it occurred in Ponsonby. And in those days, there was one of the biggest Polynesian populations outside of the islands in the world. And a lot of the Polynesian people had rented houses and apartments and so forth, and not so much Herne Bay, but Ponsonby and Grey Lynn, Freeman's Bay and all around there. And of course, in those days, a lot of them came from the islands. They came specifically really to earn money to send back home. But a lot of them lost contact with their culture. They come into the influence of drinking and gambling, even lost touch with their religion in many cases. Ponsonby in those days was actually quite wild, and there were quite a few homicides and so forth. Anyway, I was at the Ponsonby police station. We were told that an island policeman was coming there, and we rejoiced at the news because at least we can have somebody there that can speak the same language, because he was Tongan. We thought it was a really good idea. So if you picture this, if you will, one Sunday afternoon, I'm sitting in the police station by myself. The door is not locked, but it was ajar. It was quiet. Quite often it was quiet on a Sunday because they're all recovering from the night beforehand with sore heads and so forth. And I'm just sitting there, minding my own business. And next thing, there's a gentle tap on the door. So gentle I could barely hear it. So I got up, I went to the door, and there's this immaculately dressed island policeman there with his helmet on, shining away. You could look at the photograph, you look at a picture of your face and his boots are shining. He was pristine, white teeth. And I looked at him, I was quite taken back at the sight really. And I said, "Oh, hi, can I help you?" And he was very quietly spoken. He said, I come to join the police. I said, "Oh, you're joining the police?" Fairly obviously he had, because he was in uniform.
Yeah.
I said, "Oh," and then I suddenly realised who he was. I said, "Oh, you're joining the police station here?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "Oh," very quietly spoken gentleman. "Oh," I said, come in. See, and he very timidly walks in. I said, "Well, I'll show you around." Well, not much to show him really. That's where the boss's office is. This is where the office is. That's where the inquiry office is. That's where the bar, the toilets are, and so forth and so forth and so forth. And so when I'd introduced him and familiarised him with the station, he sat down, he took his helmet off, and he put it there, and he just sat there. So I thought, oh, well, I'll try and make him feel at home. And I said, "Oh, can I make you a cup of coffee?" And he says, "Oh, no, I'm a Mormon." I said, "Oh, you're a Mormon?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Oh, okay. I think we've got some Milo." And he said, "Oh, yeah, big white teeth." So I go and get him some Milo. And in those days, they had a paper called the 8 o'clock. And it was a paper that was devoted to sports to some extent, but there was also other current affairs. So I gave him the 8 o'clock. He was just sitting there, and he was drinking his Milo, reading the 8 o'clock. And he didn't have to turn up to work till the Monday, which was the next day, but he decided to come a day earlier, which is unheard of. Yeah. And so I sat back down and I was doing my file, and I was watching him, and he was highly delighted. And the next thing, the door flew open, and an islander walked in. And he obviously was suffering from the effects of drinking alcohol. And very gruff, he said, "It's the police!" Very angrily and quite hostile. And he walks down the corridor, "Hey, police!" And I was accustomed to people walking like that, so it didn't really bother me. This new island policeman literally leapt up over the desk, landed on the other side. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. I couldn't do that. I'd break my neck. Go up to this islander and hit him between the eyes. And this guy fell down on the ground and says, "Usi waru? Usi waiuchi?" This guy's going, and they were talking away in their own language and didn't understand it. But what he was actually saying was, "Leave the station now," in a very gruff tone. Very uncharacteristic compared to what he was like earlier. And this guy just picks himself up, hanging onto his head. And I'm thinking, what's going on? What's happening? Quiet little police station on a Sunday. My friend, the island guy, just sits back down, drinks his Milo, and starts reading the paper. And I'm going, "What? Excuse me? What? Why did you do what?" And the policeman just goes. Next thing I hear, so, at the police station, open the door, and this islander standing there. "What's the police?" Much subdued. "Police?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Could you tell me, please, the way to Lawrence Street. He'd come and asked him directions. So I said to him, you go down there, and I gave him directions, and he just wanders off holding his head. So I come back to the silent policeman, who's still sitting there reading Herald, and I said, "What? Why did you do that?" And he said, in the island, he said, never walk into a police station like that, never. Always walk in with respect. He said, otherwise... And he went on to serve the public very well, and he kept his own people in line. And I quite often asked him why he was so hard on his own people. And he gave me a very good explanation. He just said to me that in the islands, and Tonga particularly, where he came from, he said that the people came to New Zealand really with only one objective in mind, was to improve their life, but to send things home, like sewing machines, things that was really needed in the islands, and money. He said, and if I find them here not working, or if they were committing crimes, he said, I tell you what, he was worth his weight in gold in Ponsonby in those days, because they respected him. But we got things done, So if you ever wanted help, call on this gentleman. He's no longer with us, poor old guy. But now there's a colourful character that was hard to beat.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching this episode of Kiwi Cop Stories. If you're new to the channel, please make sure you subscribe to make sure you don't miss out on any future episodes. Cheers.